bhavatu sahanau bhunaktu saha viryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. Last week we studied the 14th verse, where we learned about what is the nature of the world. The nature of the world is, it consists of heat and cold, richness and poverty, good and bad, a friend and a foe, pleasure and pain, praise and censure, honor and dishonor, evolution and devolution. If you look at life, everything in the world is nothing but dvandvas, opposites. So when we get into contacting the world, you will either meet any one of the opposite at any time. Either you're meeting a friend or an enemy. Or you will be in moments of joy or in moments of sorrow. You will be in pleasurable or displeasure. Either you are in success or failure. And if you check on your capacity, yes, this is what life is presenting itself to me. To what extent am I able to sail through these opposites of life? In fact, how can I handle life? Am I able to handle life? We all are able to handle it to a certain extent. We can handle pain to a certain extent. We can handle joy to a certain extent, but we can handle loss to a certain extent. After that, we can't handle the loss. Isn't it, sir? So the verse told us that you got to gain this maturity, gain this understanding that everything in life is impermanent. There is nothing that is permanent. In fact, the only thing that is permanent in life is the impermanence. Nothing is permanent. Extending it to the concept of birth and death. That is the inevitable aspect of life, isn't it? So when you understand that there is an impermanence to it, you will not be affected by it. But the problem is, first and foremost, we don't understand life, that there is two aspects to it in life. So we are not prepared when negative comes our way. We are not prepared to embrace it because we didn't anticipate it, we don't expect it, we don't want it. All our life, all we want is all pleasantries. Everything must be pleasant, everything must be acceptable, everything must be favorable, everything must cooperate, the world must actually be a very dear friend to me. But that is not life, isn't it? In fact, they are telling us what we actually experience in life. The reality of life they are telling us. So when you understand that these are inevitable aspects of life, I have to understand that they are impermanent. So when you are going through them, you will have to endure. Tam titikshasva bharata means that capacity to go through them where you're not affected by it. Yeah, my business is not going through a good phase now. What should you understand? It is profit and loss is an inevitable aspect of life. I can't complain if there's a loss in business. I don't feel all that good today. There's a fluctuation in my moods. I don't feel good about my health. That is a part and health and ill health is a part and parcel of life. So when the businessman is going through that phase of loss or things are not happening, he's putting in his best effort, but things are not happening. How should he handle that? Understand, firstly, it is an inevitable aspect of life. You can't run away from them. Understand it. Secondly, go through it with a capacity that it doesn't impair you, it doesn't restrict you, it doesn't affect you. In fact, another person, third person would not even know that you are going through a crisis. Should not even know. And it depends, and that depends on your capacity, how well you have handled it. So it's as simple like our automobiles have these shock absorbers, isn't it? Can you imagine a vehicle without a shock absorber? In fact, you would know if you have been using a car for a while and the shock absorbers have given way, let's say. And when the shock absorbers are given way, you will really know the brunt of the ruggedness of the road, the ups and downs, the ditches and the humps. You can actually feel the impact as a passenger inside. But when the shock absorbers are there, and when they are perfectly functioning, you may go through a crest or a trough, a hump or a pothole, you wouldn't feel a difference. So it is the shock absorbers are bearing the shock. So when you go through life, which is the ups and downs, none of us can escape it. Better get that right. None of us can escape this is the reality of life, sir. You don't need Krishna to come and tell us. You don't need me to tell you. You don't need any guru to tell us. Once you go out into the world, you know for life, isn't it? There are people who are grateful to you. There are people who backstab you. We mentioned that, didn't we? That's life. So when you experience that, what is it in you that actually absorbs the shock? Since we are mentioning it, you got to examine it. In the automobile, it is the shock absorbers that take the shock. So the passenger has a comfortable ride. In fact, you can draw a parallel to a cruise liner, you know, these huge ships, mighty ships, my God. Sometimes you get to see certain documentaries of these huge cruise liners. A cruise liner, it's like a 20-story building. It's like a moving city. It can house close to 3,000-4,000 people. It's like a moving city. You have theaters, you have ballrooms, you have theme parks. You have to house 4,000 people, sir. It's a moving city. And yet, what is the size of that cruise liner compared to the size of the ocean? What is the size of the cruise liner compared to the size of the ocean? Being in a cruise liner, you wouldn't know. If you're in that ship, you wouldn't. You only might be struck. Wow, look at the size of this giant ship. Wow, you're just wonderstruck, isn't it? It's such a piece of a marvel. And I used to, go to Singapore for classes every week. And Singapore is one of the busiest ports in the world. One of the busiest ports. I am told you have to wait in queue for some time, days, to get a berth to offload the goods. That's the busy, and you will know that when you are actually landing. And the Singapore is a very small place, so the runway is actually at the end of the bay, a beach, and then there's a runway. So and as you are landing, you will see hundreds and hundreds of boats, mighty ships, containers, waiting. They're all there, and you are actually landing, approaching the landing strip, and all of them look like matchboxes. All these mighty cruise liners, they're importing crude, they're importing everything in Singapore is actually imported. Nothing, including the water you drink, is actually bought from Malaysia. They don't have anything of their own. Nothing is manufactured. Perhaps things are only brought in and assembled, as they say, CKD, completely knocked down. If it's an automobile, to give in local labor, if Mercedes is selling cars, instead of importing the complete CBU, completely built unit, instead of bringing CBU, they'll bring CKD. So there is job opportunities for the local people. So they'll set up a plant, and all the individual assembling is done there. So everything is, so you see, and the only way you can bring in is through these containers. So, and what I'm trying to say is, all these mighty ships, Vaishnavi, they're the size of a matchbox. And that size of that matchbox is actually a moving city, something which can house 4,000 people. Real luxury. So what I'm trying to say is that ship is like a matchbox open to the mighty waves. What is the size of a wave? Huge. Sometimes you see these ships going right into the sea, and then somehow they come up. I wonder, how do this marvel of engineering, how are they floating? How are they able to sail through? And there are ships which are designed to handle the rough seas. In fact, people go on cruises where the sea is rough. If it's a dead sea, what maja, sir? No wave, there is nothing happening, not a bird, not a wave, not a bubble. What fun? No fun, isn't it? Even when we go into the swimming pool, we try to create some waves and create some activity, otherwise it's a dead pool, but nothing there. Now why I'm drawing a comparison is, like the shock absorbers, what is it that bears the brunt of the mighty sea? The waves and that which lash the ship. What is it that takes the brunt, sir? Rajgopal, sir? What is it that takes the brunt so that the passengers are having a fine dining going on? The ship is going through roller coaster, sir. People are having fine dining. There's not even a ripple in that wine glass. Ripple is real. You think for a while, you think you're on ground. You don't know that you are sailing actually. And the ship is going through a real roller coaster. So what is it that takes the brunt of the ocean? It is a mechanism, but what is it that takes the brunt? It is the ship, there's no shock absorber in that. You call the shipwreck. It is the wreck that actually takes the onslaught of the waves, the mighty waves. The shipwreck takes the onslaught so that the passengers are having a pleasant journey. So I've given two examples. One of the automobile, another of a ship. So are we. A human being is exposed, is vulnerable to the crests and troughs, the ups and downs, the profit and loss, and the pairs of opposites of life. What is it that is taking the brunt so that you have a life of peace and happiness? Otherwise, we will be tossed like a masala dosa on a tawa. For a moment you are on this side and suddenly you will be tossed that side, this side roasted, then next turn will come, that side will be roasted. You will become appadam. Appadam you will become in life. And I tell you, how long can you take, sir? How long can you take, sir? In a day, if you have 40 experiences, 40 times you are either experiencing good or bad. So no reason you are excited, for no reason you are dejected, for no reason you go through high, for some reason you go through low. So there is all the time, it's like what is this? A seismic wave. When you see a seismograph, if it is straight line, we should be very happy. But the danger is when there is a activity. When there is an activity happening, the bar is going very rapid activity. Our life is like a seismic activity. Up and down, up and down, up and down. For no reason fluctuated, for no reason rejected. And if you are kept calm, if you are calm for a while, something comes and disturbs you. A message comes, a call comes, somebody flings a remark, or somebody reacts nastily, or somebody sends you good wishes. Like today, I came to know one of my students is celebrating his 50th birthday. Somehow a message comes to you. So it's a pleasant occasion. I just send greetings. I'm very happy for you. Suddenly another message comes. Something not pleasant I can share. Isn't this life? Isn't this life? It is a part of life. How long can you endure them? How long can you face them? Not endure. How long can you face them? How long can you handle them? You have to come. But what I'm trying to tell you is, there is nothing called as normalcy, because 40 experiences are either up or down. There's nothing as neutral. There's no neutral thing here. So when life puts you through this cycle, isn't there a mechanism you need to know how to handle this? That you're not excited by joy, nor are you dejected by sorrow? Don't you think we should find a life where we should be in a medium, where we're not thrown up and down? And there's only that much you can take, and that's when it gets to you. You really become emotional, isn't it? You know? Even in a relationship, you can handle only that much of a person. That much nonsense you can handle, or that much good you can handle. You know, whatever you can handle, isn't that much. And at a point it gets to you. It's like, come on, don't cross the line, man. I think I've had enough of it. Please. You see, even the patience of the mother with the child is only to that extent. Beyond a point, you say, enough. Please don't. You have to correct the child in a in a different way. The tone changes, the approach changes, because that much you can handle. It gets to you, isn't it? So what you are very clear now is there is the life, the world, and then there is the capacity to handle it. Now my question is, what is it that takes the brunt? Like the shock absorbers in a car and the wrecks of a ship. What is it in you that takes the emotions? Is that which is like the roller coaster, up and down, up and down. But to have a very peace or happiness or that sense of equanimity within is like the passenger in the ship is having a fine dining dinner while the ship is going through a roller coaster. What is it that is taking the brunt in a human being? Maturity and understanding. Balance of mind is the passenger having fine dining dinner. Spirituality is a very broad term. You're right, but we're talking of that when you talk of maturity, understanding, spiritual maturity or that wisdom. But we are talking of what realm in a human personality? What is it in a human being that takes the shock? Precisely like the shock absorber is that gadget which takes the shock. It's not the tire, it's not the steering wheel, it's not the seats, it's not the engine, it's the shock absorber, isn't it, sir? They have a specific role. The shock absorbers have a specific role. So there is that equipment in you which plays that role. What is that equipment in you? I ask you, you say Manas, if somebody were to, I can't experiment on it, I don't want to practically do that now, but somebody insults you, doesn't it feel bad? You feel hurt, isn't it? You get anger or you feel annoyed, you retaliate, you revolt. All that emotion isn't at the mind level. So it is the mind that is actually affected. But what is it that can ensure that you don't get affected? So what is it that should take the shock so that the mind is calm? Awareness, faith in God. Now, if you carefully noted, I am drawing the answer to a particular equipment in you which facilitates it. You see? Senses. Where only Ilya? What is it that controls? See, if you Ama okay, now let me, rather than giving a straightforward answer, let me build the answer to you all. Now I take your views and I am not disagreeing at all. See, when you look at a plant, what is an anatomy of a plant? A plant has a physical body. It has a very, very rudimentary mind and no intellect at all. Agree with me? It may exhibit certain reactions to certain stimuli or certain music. So we may say, yes, we will give in. It may have a very rudimentary emotion or a mind. Tanisha, a plant has got a body, a rudimentary mind and no intellect. You come to an animal kingdom has a body, it has a partially developed mind. Like when you give an emotion to a pet, it gives that faith, it becomes faithful rest of its life, more than any human being. So nowadays the people get attached to dogs and pets, cats and dogs. Why? Because they can't find that true love in a human being. So they get that unconditional love through a pet. You may deprive your pet. You have put your dog in a kennel or a dog house. You send it for the 2 weeks you're going for a long summer holiday. You can't take that pet with you. You left the dog in a kennel. Make sure it's provided well. But you know the dog really suffers, the pet suffers the emotional separation, attachment. You are enjoying a lovely time with the family. The animal, poor animal is suffering. But the day you come back and pick it up, it is not going to be moody for next 2 days. It's not going to talk to you. Amava? Illingla? The moment it sees you, it can't contain the joy. It is full of fun and laughter. It is rolling all over you. It is licking you. It is not sad for 2 weeks you didn't give the emotion. No. Unconditional. You do the same thing to your spouse. The story is different. Huh? To your near and dear, you have not given the emotion. There will be a strike in the house. A galata, a big tamasha in the house. Conditional love. So, you know, there is a lot of emotion at the animal kingdom, but it's very partial. An animal also has got a rudimentary intellect, like a dog. Other day I was watching a documentary in National Geographic in how they catch passengers smuggling drugs in Colombia airport. It was a fascinating documentary. Just a few days ago, one evening I was watching, and how and all they carry, they actually swallow. One fellow swallowed 50 capsules of drugs. They somehow tie it up and they swallow it. And they caught a couple, they were actually carrying Johnson's baby powder bottles. The husband was carrying 6, the wife was carrying 6 bottles. And how they managed it, God knows. Top 30% is the powder, bottom 30% is the powder, in between they have kept drugs in packets. How did they detect that? They had sniffer dogs, and there are 100 bags there. It can sniff and detect, and it will sit and react that this bag has something fishy, and thereafter the officer has to figure out where it is, and they are all experienced, you know, how they smuggle and carry. Sometimes it is in toys, it is there in different kind of ways. But these animals have the discretion that they can pick up even a granule. I have had this experience. Once I was actually going to Singapore for organizing lectures. I drove in. From Malaysia I drove in, and I had a car full of items, books and materials and tables and cloth and all material for an event like this. I was organizing an event. I went in there, and I went in the green lane, nothing to declare. And I have been a regular visitor, so I didn't find there's anything to declare. And that girl stopped me at the checkpost. I said, "Why are you in the green lane? Nothing to declare." "Sir, I have got nothing to declare. But from the look of your car, your booth is full with items. There's so many things you're carrying. What are all these? You should come in the red lane." He pulled me over. Next 2 hours, short of ripping the car apart, he had to say, first said, "Take everything out." I had to take everything out. I had a list of things so I could mention it, but he said, no, I want to see everything. Open all the boxes. And he sent the dog into the car, because it is very common for drugs to be smuggled into Singapore through the Malaysian border. So he thought, I'm one of such fellows. And I can't forget that experience. Next 2 hours, I learnt a lesson. So an animal has a physical body. It has, what does it have, Tanisha? It has got a physical body. It has got concentrate. Not concentrating. It's very easy for me to pick up who's not concentrating. Not that your neighbor friend is concentrating. An animal has got a body, a partially developed mind, and a rudimentary intellect. Right? You come to a human being has got the most complex of all physical bodies. You ask a doctor, Ascharya, it's a wonderment. How our human body itself is designed and functions and how it operates. It's a miracle. You got to go through any science journal, you see any science documentary, it's a wonderment. It's a wonderment how a human being is born. The journey it takes from the conception to the birth. How it's nothing but wonderment, believe me. We don't have time for all that wonderment. So we accept it as a matter of fact. But it is a wonderment how a baby is formed. So many things, our physical body happens. And then if we have a fully developed mind, far more developed than an animal. A dog doesn't know what is forgiveness. Have you ever tried, if you have the mother, father and the puppies in the house, if you have offered food in one big bowl, have you ever seen the mother waiting and say, let the kids eat and then the mother will come and eat? It doesn't happen that way. The mother will pounce, push aside its own offspring and it will try to eat the food. But a human being doesn't do that, isn't it? The mother will say, okay beta, you have. No, I've done it only for you. The kid may ask, Mummy is there for you. Never mind, you just eat. Go eat. You like it? No, eat all, no problem. That emotion is not there in an animal, and much more. That sympathy, that empathy, that charity. The broadness of the mind is far more developed in a human being. And then intellect is fully developed in a human being. An animal has no intellect at all, or rudimentary. Now I ask you, what is it that takes the shocks of the knocks and shocks of life? I'm asking, what is the shock absorber? It is the intellect. Having spelt it, you're not able to pick it up. It is the intellect that takes the shocks so that your mind is at ease, at rest. Just like the shock absorbers take the shock, the passenger has a beautiful, comfortable ride. Isn't it? So what he is saying is, understand that they are inevitable, understand that they are impermanent, and you learn to endure. All this is a capacity of the intellect. If you have not developed it, you will face the brunt of life. A time will come. Sorry, Ma? Intellect is not sixth sense. Intellect is that capacity to think. Like now you are thinking along with me. It is the intellect that is actually thinking. When you ask me something, it is the intellect that questions. I give you a document and say, please find the fault in it. What is it that does the examining? It is the intellect. What was the question you asked me yesterday night, Vaishnavi? That you were asking a joke. You said, what is wrong with A, B, C, D? What is that? Can you please find the mistake? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the question is, MISTAK. Find the mistake. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The question is, find the mistake. Then somebody answered that there is nothing wrong in the mistake because 1, 2, 3. Sudhakar Garu, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There is no mistake. Adda. There is a spelling mistake in the very mistake itself. because the mistake is misspelled. It's M-I-S-T-A-K-E. But our question ketanga M-I-S-T-A-K. Mistake, find the mistake in the 1 to 10. You must have that alertness to say, hey, there's something wrong in the very spelling itself. That's the mistake. The mistake is in the very mistake itself. What is it that does all that? Your mind doesn't do that. It is the intellect. A lawyer argues a case, and there's a reference to, I'm giving a reference to a very famous case. The entire case was based on a document. And the lawyer was defending heavily. And the opponent was a very brilliant lawyer. After all the argument he gave, establishing the case in his favor based on the document, the opponent lawyer stood up and said, sir, can you please examine the document? To which the judge said, in fact, we have been whole day examining the document. What examining the document? Literally, that fellow was very lazy, very relaxed whole day. Any objection? No objection. Any comments? No comments. That fellow was going on full blast, supporting his arguments, basing on a document. Or document irundhathu. This fellow got up and said, sir, can you please examine the document? Sir, whole day we've been examining. No, sir. My lord, can you please put the paper against the light? He took the document and put it against light. He said, sir, do you see a watermark? Yes, there's a watermark. Do you see a camel watermark? Yes, I see a camel watermark. And then he established by proving that the document was forged. How do you say that?